Morning, Tom. You're right. You've had a busy week, and it sounds like you're doing something exciting last night.
Yeah, no, it's a standard end of the month. A dining group, just a group of old mates who we get together on the same day every month.
Uh,
In Chinatown last night, the old school one. It's Soho Pints on the street. It was lovely as well. It was sun was shining, people were out. It was great vibe. We actually had a bit of a funny one last night. Actually, that I wanna talk about. There's a reason why we went to a specific pub. Right, so every month we always pick somewhere for drinks first, and then we go for dinner somewhere. And we went to the Blue Post in Berwick Street.
yeah.
Obviously, cue the confusion of half the group like going to the wrong one. But once we were all in the correct Blue Post, I was like, oh, we could just nip down to grab some pizza on the street of a very well known. I won't name him, but everyone will know who I'm talking about. A new well-known pizza player
Yeah.
who everyone's been raving about. And they trade slices out to the street.
Mhm.
But they're not doing that anymore. So we went down there, the window's open, all the pizzas are open, tempting you in, but they won't serve you by the slice anymore. So obviously they've worked out their whole, we're going to serve both ways, serve to the streets, by the slice, all that stuff. So consolidated their
So,
operation
t- so,
into,
t- so what's the way it works now then?
well, it's all just sat there, and then there's two guys standing there, and the guy was quite abrupt and rude to us. It was like, just get in the queue, mate. That's like, all
But
right.
you can still, if you queue and you go in and you ask the person for your order, you still can buy by the slice, I assume.
Oh, I think so. We didn't even get that far because it's an amazing contrast to a year ago or 9 months ago, or whatever, when I first went there, and it was, there was a host on the door with an iPad, like being really friendly and hosting everyone in.
It could be a bad day, a bad hour.
Yeah. So what struck me was obviously at the time we had a few beers in us and we wanted somewhere to eat quickly. And
Yeah.
that's why we went there because we could grab a quick slice of pizza and carry on having more beers. And yeah, it didn't work like that. So that whole place has now completely changed in my mind of like, well, it's not that anymore.
Yeah. So you can't just do that nice, like almost like market stall type vibe where there always was. There used to be like a little queue. There was a queue out the door of the actual unit,
Yeah.
but then there's also the queue on the street of like I'm waiting for my pizza slice, and that moves pretty quick because wasn't the whole
And it,
vibe around the fact that because the pizza was cooked and then they just blasted it in the oven again, didn't they, or
yeah.
something?
Yeah. So it's all just sat there. And to be honest, not particularly appealing if you're queuing up in the shop and it's sat there, open to the elements on one side, but you can't access that. It kind of is a bit weird. Like they've designed it for that, but then, and it might have been a time of the night thing. But it wasn't that late. It was, I don't know, 8:30. We went there,
Yeah,
so
but maybe you're right.
prime
Maybe
time
that's
really.
the end of shift model where like there's one or two less people on shift and they don't serve out the hatch anymore.
Well, there were two chaps not doing too much, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
and I never want to like call out hospitality pros. Everyone's working hard, but yes, it wasn't a great look. And then we went so we went into a classic old school place that I've been to loads in Chinatown, and it was brilliant. You kind of we got a classic Chinese with a few daiquiris and a few beers, and it was great and like amazing service, everything spot on. And you kind of, it reminded me of like old school of this like innovation sometimes being um, a problem, creating more problems than it's worth. And then you go into quite an old school setting, like old school Chinese restaurant that would be doing the same thing forever. And it just felt really good. It was like a
yeah,
reminder of,
and like it probably for all the things I'm sure that weren't maybe particularly trendy about that experience or particularly I don't know where you might read that you're meant to be going. I bet just having, I don't know, enough team members and someone who was pretty
oh yeah.
attentive and they knew probably all about the menu and the food and the drink. I bet
Oh,
that was
so,
actually just refreshing, and actually that's what you want. It's like when you go to, like I don't know, like an Indian restaurant, and like actually everyone knows what's going on, everyone knows how it works, there's loads of team, and it actually just what you want is that hospitality experience.
yeah, and I guess we're referencing like that classic kind of slightly more old school style restaurant where potentially it's family run, that you've got a team who kind of like everyone just knows everything about it because they've just been in there for ages. That's what everyone's sort of replicating in every setting. That really embedded in knowledge and caring about it, and just sort of seamless service. It's got the extreme contrast between a kind of cool new concept, like good product. I've seen it done really well at the opening, the launch, and then potentially it's just the realities of the market are now hitting them, or just operational inertia, or kind of like they just can't keep up those standards forever. Change of personnel, bit of lack of focus, moving on to a different site.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's a big cliche now to be talking about, it's a tough time in hospitality, but it definitely is, but also speaking to people this week as well, it's not just in insights on shift that is getting squeezed. I was talking to someone who runs a sales team of 4 people, and they're currently down to 1.5 people right now. And
Yeah,
it is really hard. And like, I was questioning basically why I hadn't had a response to my inquiry. And, the team is stretched. And I think HQ teams, sales teams, I'm still trying to organize large bookings. And it's just unbelievable how long that period is between making an inquiry and hearing from somebody.
yeah,
Like, it's unbelievable.
and I had a catch up with the guys from Review this week, which was, am I saying that right?
Yeah, review, yeah.
Review. And well, I guess they started out in kind of
Yeah.
reviews, right? So it kind of makes sense, and then shifted into other things. But I was really impressed as a sort of tech skeptic, AI
Yeah.
skeptic. I was quite excited by it actually. As someone who's currently being faced with like, do we hire a new GM? Do we hire new bodies to fill gaps? Well, immediately I was like, well, that's 10 hours out of our week that can be
Uh-huh.
done with AI. And I'm putting aside the conversation around, are we going to lose humans and
Yeah, yeah.
tech's going to take the place? But the software was brilliant, and it would do the job of a couple of people in a sales team. Where I see it is like adding value rather than, it's something that we could get better at using it and not miss bookings and not miss opportunities and respond to everyone and everything. And I was really impressed by the way it will learn and smart tone of voice stuff and just how good it was at interpreting, kind of complex requests.
I've noticed now, like, I am currently like, trying to organize another 2 sort of like, 10, 15 person meals out in London, and is obviously, and I totally understand this, but every sales team, most of their first responses to an inquiry is somewhat of a template, right? I totally understand that. You need to give me the information back of what menus can I have in that space? Is there a minimum spend? I understand all that. But
Yeah.
you take 48 hours to do that. Like, you could send me that template immediately back using some technology, and
Yeah.
you have to wait. I have to wait 48 hours, and then by that time I've made 10 other inquiries, and now I'm battling phone calls, emails,
Yeah.
from all these places, when actually I just wanted to book the first one I inquired at.
The text's so good from what I saw. I just think it's a no-brainer. You just use that. The morning I met with these guys, my business partner who deals with all the big bookings and events and stuff, he was saying, "Oh God, this is a bit of a nightmare. We need to sort this out because it's taking me like an hour and a half every day. Every morning I'm
Uh-huh.
spending a significant amount of time." I said, "Well, bang, got a
Yeah,
solution for it, mate."
solved it. I'm still looking for a space for one thing, and I sent an inquiry off to somewhere last night about 6, 7 o'clock, and I actually got a reply from somebody straight away, and I must have caught them before the end of their day. But it was so
Yeah,
refreshing, and like, it was a really good template. It was a great response to me, which is good, and I probably will book that place now purely on the basis of the reply. But like, the entirety of the reply I got is a tiny bit of personalization plus a template, and the very nice sales manager that sent it back to me could also have been an AI. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, man. I mean, I get really bogged down in this because I think touch and feel, personal touch is so important, and that is the sort of human connection is the heart of hospitality. I think it's what everyone's looking for, and it's what you try and achieve through all your processes and efficiencies. You're trying to just get people into a place where they feel comfortable and can just bring some human to human connection over the bar or at the table or whatever. And that's what makes an experience nice, in my view. And so I'm naturally skeptical where tech comes into it and sort of artificially
Mhm.
divides that human to human bit. But if I'm being honest, most of the stuff you get from people is rubbish anyway. It's like the AI will just do it better, and I'll at least do it more consistently. And to be honest, like when you're booking something, it's nice to sort of know you're chatting to someone, but at the same time, what do you need? You just need data. You need information quickly.
Most of it is. And actually, I took a group of people to Kapara in Soho on Tuesday. It's a lovely restaurant. It's got a really nice vibe. The atmosphere is good. The design is cool. The food is really tasty. I like Middle Eastern food. But one of the key decisions I made was I know I can go onto their website and I can book for like up to 15 people without having to send an inquiry, blah blah blah, wait 3 days for a reply. Like I knew I could do that, and actually that was a productivity thing as well. And then actually they communicated with me over text message to check that everything was set up for the booking. We adjusted the people all via like message rather than like email or some annoying booking platform. And actually it was a really good experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't mean to get into the whole bookings thing, but it is very like on my mind, like around just how people are stretched. And I think the idea now that you might have lots of people in your business just basically filtering, filing, sorting, and sending templates to inquiries, that is the stuff where those people can be doing more high value work.
Yeah, I've seen it in companies where there's just the big departments that they get a bit bloated on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got like maybe an unpopular view on this, but I guess now being a like almost like an outsider to most businesses I work with,
Yeah,
I do think that there is a mindset that I definitely had as well, but a mindset for people sometimes in roles and in teams that there isn't necessarily always people asking the question of what is all the work that's being done, what is the actual correct resource for that, how do we people are not always looking critically at how the business should be running, how big teams should be, and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. Well, I guess once you have a person in a position, it's quite hard to emotionally, and you sort of become dependent on that person for things, and it's quite hard emotionally to sort of suddenly
Yeah.
decide. It's
Well,
not
we
then a quick decision, is it? It's not always turn this person off, let's turn
no,
this bit off. You suddenly think, right, it's a huge barrier.
and there are dependencies on that person and therefore that role that become part of processes, right? We did an event on Tuesday, Practical AI for Hospitality,
Yeah,
which was very interesting. And at Grimshaw, who was on the podcast in the summer, one of the things that he basically said is about how one of the things that you basically shouldn't be doing here is just like giving your teams loads of AI tools to be more productive, because all you're going to do basically is like effectively ship loads more work and therefore chaos. Like you'll send more
yeah,
messages, you'll triage more emails, and you'll send more emails, and you'll do all that. What you really need to be doing is like going back to workflow design of processes and actually starting from scratch. And he said one of the best ways to do that was actually, as somebody moves on from a business or a position becomes vacant, don't take the immediate stance of just filling that position. Let's imagine it's a team of salespeople in a restaurant group.
yeah,
If you lose one of 4 people, actually what you need to work out is how do I triage 25% of that workload, for example.
yeah.
And actually, it doesn't mean that you just need to get a like-for-like replacement. It could be a couple of bits of tooling. It could be upskilling and training for the other people. It could be a different way of changing the process that generates all the work, all the bookings and inquiries. It doesn't necessarily. So I think that was actually really interesting that, you need to almost go back a bit further than just like, here's a load of tools that can help.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the reshaping of teams bit that is, it's going to come through really quick, and it's going to
But it is
require.
going to
We've
happen.
been,
Like I don't want to sound heartless because I'm really not trying to be heartless about it. But who was it? A couple of months ago, it's a company owned by Jack Dorsey, the Twitter guy.
yeah,
But they were dropping something like 40% of their workforce for automation. Like it was like multiple thousands of people. And you can read it at Meta, and you read it at Google. All the big banks, everyone is reshaping. It will take longer to hit smaller businesses, but it
yeah,
definitely will. And Matt said again, Matt was full of really good advice, but I don't think it is alarmist to say AI's impact on businesses will be larger than the internet.
yeah. And I was around the table at dinner last night as banker, sort of civil servant, two hospitalitarians, if that's a
Ha,
word.
I think it is.
and an architect, and we all could see quite clearly how, and especially the guys in professional services were like, if anything, it was me and a friend in hospitality. We are both like, well, kind of, what we do. You can't have an AI serve a pint over the bar. I mean, you can have a
Uh-huh.
robot, but that's not really what people want. I think I'm quite optimistic about the use of AI giving back time to operators, especially in small
Uh-huh.
businesses, kind of leveling the playing field a little bit, allowing, because we couldn't afford to hire a sales manager or someone just to deal with booking, so we just suck it up into our week, and our manager will do it, or one of us will do it, and you end up wearing a million hats. Whereas actually, you just start putting these hats in some systems, and it's a relatively cost-effective way of doing it. And actually, you can invest a little bit into something that will be really effective for your small business and kind of level up really small
Yeah.
independents. I think it's a bit of it's a positive thing to support the business, rather than, I think these sort of big businesses might struggle a little bit more because they're a little bit more bloated.
Well, I guess the change is harder, right? Like if you currently have,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
3 restaurants and 2 people who are supporting centrally, really what that probably means is as you open more restaurants, you'll be able to use more tooling and, agents and software and not need to grow the team at the same rate as you would have done
Yeah,
5 years ago.
well,
It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing for anyone in the
yeah,
business currently.
but the number of humans might remain level, or you might even hire
Mm.
more people because you'll be doing more, but you'll be growing. But you hopefully you'll be able to put them on the floor. You'll be able to hire you know a waiter. You'll be able to hire a restaurant manager. Like you'll be able to have more people in operational roles because everything else is getting taken care of. And it kind of goes back to that conversation we were having last week about what a GM does. You either have these GMs as sort of mini MDs, running a business as a proper operator, or you have them as like big as sort of floor managers. Either way, I see opportunities there and efficiencies. Like being in between with loads of people centrally building process and managing all that, and creating checks and checks and checks on checks, and having that whole old school infrastructure that kind of gives people centrally comfort that everything's being done, but it's just sort of low trust, sort of making everything a bit average kind of business model. A lot of big companies, I think, sort of get dragged into. I think that model is going to go pretty quickly, and it could be messy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and, it's a very interesting time to be part of, well, I think to be in businesses and trying to keep up with the pace of change. Where do you
uh,
sit, Tom, on the AI scale of avoiding it, utilizing it like Google, to having agents doing tasks for you? I think I
yeah,
probably
no,
know, but
I'm really like for it. It's like anything, right? I've been really busy recently, and it's super exciting. By the time we release this, will probably be opening the doors to our new site, and we are really running fast and hard at this. We are right in the middle of writing menus, writing wine lists, loads of good stuff, picking lights, paintings, paint colours, all that stuff. But we're also going to flip it really quick and want consistency. So we've got 2P planning, all the people stuff, all the team meetings, training, very short closure period, and reopen, all the logistics, all the supply chain, and it's hectic. And within this, I'm really positive. They had this meeting with Karen at Review, and he gave a really good demonstration and articulated what they can do in a really succinct, clear way to help
uh
drive a bit of revenue, capture missed opportunities, but also make things easier and slicker. And he wasn't trying to really oversell it, wasn't trying to make wild claims about what they can, we can drive 100% more this, that, the other. It was just really smart and clear. And it made me think, yeah, we can actually really use this. And then you talk to some other people, and they've got a product they're not quite sure. It does lots of things. It's clever, but it's not totally clear on what it's going to do for you. And I think there's a lot of that about at the moment. There's a lot of smart tech that it's not 100% clear on exactly what it's trying to do or what problem it's trying to solve.
Yeah, and actually, I'm a big fan of sort of very focused tools like that. You know what
Mm,
I mean? Like where
mm.
maybe not building, the, I don't know, operating system for restaurants. Like I just don't think anyone's ever going to be able to do that. But like, in my personal life, like I use loads of different tools and apps and, things. I don't have, this one bit of software that runs my entire life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I just don't think you need to constantly innovate everything all the time. I love the Charles Eames, the designer's quote. I was reading a book months ago, there's a quote saying that many a horror was done in the name of innovation. I think it's so true. It is so true in hospitality. Everyone's trying to change everything all the time. Payment solutions and QR
Uh-huh.
codes and all that. I think there's so much around that, so much noise, so much money, energy, development went into all of that sort of stuff. And actually, there's only a really minor changes have actually happened in the market. Really, like most people still pen and a pad and a PDQ, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there isn't actually that much development or like problem solving.
That is interesting, actually. I was speaking to someone recently about like POS payments and ways of ordering, like kiosks and all that sort of stuff. And we as the UK, on like not every market, some markets have adopted that technology very differently. If you're in I would imagine, like like some of Asia and definitely like Australia and New Zealand, like there's a lot more tech focus there. I think that the dining experience has changed much more than here. Did you see that when you were out there?
Yeah, well, like when in Japan, like all the little ramen joints, they have a vending machine at the front, and they've had them for ages. And you get a ticket, you pick the number, whatever you want. You get your ticket, and you go in and you just give a ticket to someone. And like it feels really old school, actually. That's effectively what what the kiosk is. We're really in deep looking at payment solutions, and we're looking at handheld waiter pads, and I think that's the way we're going to go. And that's maybe the one bit of development I've seen: integrated PDQ and waiter pad, digital waiter pads. But there's still a problem with those, which is there is some functionality that you can't get on that, which you do need a till for, like a proper till
Uh-huh.
screen. And it's a bit annoying that hasn't been kind of worked through, because it's only like a handful of things that you can't really do on it
Do you
that
mean
you
things
might need a
like,
till
I don't know,
for.
like do a refund or like void something or?
Yeah, it's stuff like that. You can do refunds on the units we're looking at, but it's if you need to move a table quickly, or
Uh-huh.
it's a bit of table management, bit of management stuff. If something's a little bit more complicated, and it's only a handful of functions, but there are functions that will crop up often enough that we are thinking, oh, maybe we need a till on the floor. But I'm trying to adopt tech and AI within our processes. But I guess the interesting thing I thought about recently is that adopting some of this stuff has been out of necessity. I'm looking at it out of necessity because we've been faced with a problem inside our organization. We've got a personnel gap. So currently, Ben and I are just filling it. And then as we open our second site, we got our people plan to fill all those gaps and figure it out. I'm kind of thinking, can we use some AI to fill in some of the tasks that a person would do, and then look at our staffing slightly differently and maybe hire a different role rather than
Mm.
fill the same role as we were looking at before. And that's this little opportunity has been, it's kind of frustrating in some ways, but fortuitous in others. It's allowed us to analyze stuff. Would we be analyzing it if we weren't put in that position? Maybe not. We could be a year down the line, and I could have just said, forget it, put it into the back of my mind, because the business doesn't really require it right now. And I think that's going to be. I think that's probably the case for lots of independents, right? It's timing, and it's
Mhm.
having that space and time to think, and maybe it's an opportune moment to readdress tech and AI. But it's quite overwhelming to just stop, look at your business, and think, okay, where can I slide this stuff in?
Yes, I think that's true. And it's, like you said at the start of this conversation, it's uncomfortable. And, even in small businesses, sometimes could be even more uncomfortable, if you've got a small team.
I've always been sort of like I've got an old iPhone. I don't care. I don't need the latest. I'm like 7 iPhones back. As long as you can still update the software and use it, I'll just phone people and text them. I don't really do anything else on it. So I'm a bit old school like that. I almost think I'm not stressed about adopting all this stuff, but but then when there's an opportunity, you look at it and go, oh god, there's loads of great stuff out there, and then it almost stresses you out. You think, oh, are we falling behind? But I do also think that if your business is running efficiently, if you're making money, just don't worry about it, right? Because there's so much on the day to day to focus on.
Mhm.
Like, get your head down and worry about it when there's a gap to worry about it, or when you have a problem to solve. Start thinking about it, and then the tech might be even better and even further on.
Yeah,
Like when
totally.
I break my phone, inevitably break it or lose it. And then I suddenly jump like 5 versions of a phone ahead. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And I'm not particularly worried about all the stuff I missed before, but you suddenly get the benefit of that. You seen anything in the news recently caught your eye?
That's a good question. I've actually been a little bit busy this week, and I haven't read as much of the news as possible. What's been going on, Tom? You must have something
Yeah,
on your mind.
well, obviously, I've been head down deep in this new opening phase, so not been reading too much with my feet up and a coffee. But there's something that did catch my eyes, just a bit of chat about no and low, and I guess feeds into a broader conversation about supply chains and commercial, um, like commercial work. I think it's something that gets missed massively. Having an insight into a reasonably large company that had no one managing commercial.
Hmm.
Like I worked for lots of big companies and some smaller companies, and they've always had someone who's commercially minded doing a role. Then a pretty big company that had no one looking after commercial, and it's all done kind of local level in each business unit. Kind of mad. And then sort of going through this ourselves at the moment, thinking about new products for new business, and we're starting to have conversations with suppliers about pricing, and all the pricing's landing for this year, and their supply chain inflation is kind of locked in quite a heavy rate. And we got our Guinness pricing through recently, and it's disgusting. Like, it's eye-watering, and it's becoming a real problem because it's so popular with younger people, but it's so expensive. And I was then reading this article about this no and low stuff. And what the article was basically saying was, still, even though there's so much noise about it, it feels like for years and years we've been, like, the trade press has been pounding this, and no and low suppliers have been pounding this. The health lobby telling everyone no one's drinking anymore and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's going to the gym and being super healthy, as if you can't do both. It's one or the other. And actually, the stats suggest that the no and low is still a tiny fraction of the market.
Hmm.
Like 0.5 or something of the overall mix. And any huge increases that get reported, like 15-20%, are just so marginal that it's not even worth talking about. And the massive category that's driving younger guests into hospitality is stout over the bar. But kids drinking Guinness. And so I kind of introduced a bunch of things there, but this article made me think about it, and then this sort of commercial reality that a lot of businesses are facing, and like Guinness, Diageo having everyone over a barrel, but probably managing their sort of global problems
Uh-huh.
through the price of Guinness, and like no one really making any margin off it, maybe apart from Diageo, and then the customer is suffering £7.50, £7.80, £8 pints of Guinness, but like they're still
Wow. Is
going
that
for it.
where the market's at the moment for Guinness?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. We cannot make a margin on it. Anything lower than 7+. I don't understand, because there is some wild discrepancies between wholesalers at the moment, and it just got me thinking. Ben and I are going to just have a look through our whole supply chain, and it's probably something that indies don't get to do that often, because you feel like you haven't got the power to do it. And obviously, big companies have just got departments constantly hammering
Hmm.
this. And I saw something on social media recently. There's a lot of chat going on about the price of pints, price of beer, the economics behind of it, and a bit of education around how little profit there is in a pint. Utilities keep ramping up, and that's a concern, and rates and everything else just keeps eating into it. You kind of got nowhere to go, right? So we're heading towards the £10 pint at pace, and it's going to alienate a whole chunk of people from the market and just create this huge divide between massive companies who can afford to keep the prices low, and squeeze out independents who can't make it work in the middle. So if you're not good enough to offer a premium price and people go for it, you're really going to struggle. And yeah, there's just this huge discrepancy. There's this lady on social media, a publican, she was basically just saying, yeah, the difference is huge companies just carry massive debts and are just trading on debt, and their deep pocket cash backers can just subsidize basically the whatever cost increases that they get, and they can charge massive prices, and it doesn't really matter. They just bludgeon their way through the market, whereas independents have to make every pound work, and that's why we're getting squeezed out. And increasingly, we can't do it because we don't have any power of the supply chain.
Yeah, interesting. I
And
mean,
yeah.
not to bring it back to tech, but I did see something pretty cool recently in this exact market, because one of the issues I think is there is often margin on the table, but like it's really hard to know where to go. And if you do know where to go, it's a lot of faff, right? To go out to 10 suppliers and try and find all the pricing for the things you want.
And just know how to have that conversation and like having the knowledge.
What do you ask for? Do you ask for a retro, or can you get all of this stuff and like, oh, actually, like basket size might affect my pricing. So like, I'll move 3 more products over to this supplier, and then I'll have more buying power. Like, this
Absolutely.
is all stuff
Yeah.
that I only recently really sort of get my head around. But there's a really nifty little tool called Percy.
Yeah.
And what all Percy does, have you seen it before? Have I talked about it before?
No, I don't think
But
so.
Percy,
No.
all you do is you upload like a selection of your invoices, and Percy just goes away in the background and compares it to its entire network of suppliers.
Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah.
And then we'll just tell you in a lovely little dashboard, theoretical savings are X amount per year based on, like if you upload 3 months of invoices or 1 month of invoices, yeah, you could save £12,000 a month if you moved everything. And then it will show you by line item what the switch would be. And it's like, it's pretty new because obviously AI is pretty new, but it's a really interesting one because it's a very focused tool. Doesn't need to do loads of other stuff. If you run a couple of pubs, you have not got the time to go and meet 20 suppliers.
I've had some interesting conversation recently. Some suppliers approaching us, reps approaching us about products that they're trying to break into the market and they're not really offering anything and their prices are crazy. And you think, well, if you want to break into the market or you want a tap, you either come with something, that is attractive, like a listing fee, or just be upfront about it and just say this is what we're going to pay you to stick it at the bar for 12 months, or because you have to really eke that out of people. It's not upfront, but if you don't know to ask, then you'll never get it.
And I'm sure loads of people don't ask,
and people don't ask. You're right. And I just think there's crazy price discrepancies, and sometimes you get a little bit like you get sort of slightly shirty response from people who are like they've just walked into your pub, or your business or whatever. They're like, buy my product, and you're like, well, it's really expensive, and I don't think we can make it work. And you're like, it's probably not even it's not any better than the really good products we've got. And they're like, oh, right then, well, suit yourself. You're not offering anything. I don't understand. So there's some really one-way weird stuff going on out there, but that's kind of the way, especially the beer world, it's kind of gone for ages, and everyone's got a story about their beer. We've partnered with some suppliers recently. Shout out to Braybrook. They are exceptional, and we approached them because their beer's so bloody good, and we see it over the bar. So guests who try it are like, wow, that's amazing. They come back for it. And we've our rate of sale for a brand new product that's got relatively low market penetration and it's really premium has been great so far. And we haven't really pushed it or done much about it. It's just selling itself because it is so good. And I think it's pretty rare that you get products.
Oh, that's cool. I'm just looking at them now. It looks like a beautiful product, brewery. Have you been to the tap room?
Yeah. They took us up to the brewery, like tasting, showed us around. Immaculate, brilliant setup, like nice guys just doing good stuff. It's like good people doing good things. And that's our motto, but we're also really commercially minded. So they have delivered a fair price for a really premium product. And then you'll get other people just be like sky high, like 20 quid more for no real reason. It's getting contract brewed in a massive brewery somewhere and then slapped a bit of branding on it. And it's kind of crazy. You've got to work harder than that. But I don't think that many people have the time or energy or skills or know-how to make people work harder. I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area. I'm really interested in buying groups and things like that. How we can use tech to connect up a network of small independents, and potentially increase your buying power, and just share information, because I think information's the power here, isn't it? People just don't know what we're all paying for it. And like Ben and I are lucky we've got a good network of people and who are willing to talk. We're finding that some of our friends in a similar sized business or small businesses are paying 15, 20 quid less a barrel for Guinness. How can that be?
Wow, interesting. Right, Tom, I think we need to move on. I've got a meeting in a few minutes. What are you up to in the coming weeks? I'm about to go away for 2 weeks.
Oh, very nice. Where are you off to?
Just off to Spain with the family.
Just a little trip to Spain.
Little trip to Spain, some gambas pill, and maybe a lager by the beach.
Beautiful. Yes, I just head down, man. We're trying to flip a business that's currently trading. We're going to close it for a few days.
What's the opening date or anticipated opening date?
If all goes well, hopefully sort of second week of April. I'm not saying a day.
Sometime in the week of the 13th, then maybe.
No, the week before, like maybe the
Oh,
9th
amazing.
or 9th or 10th or something.
Oh, amazing.
It's a great business, so we don't need to do too much, but we just want to get it open and trading and a bit of continuity for everyone involved. We're really happy to be taking on the challenge. All the risks associated with expanding a small business at this time. Incredibly busy with that, and then trying to squeeze in a few beers and a bit of lunch here and there. I'm still thinking about our lunch at Legardo, mate. That was superb.
It really was superb. I hope we get to do that with Paolo. Well, maybe not every month like he suggested, but hopefully every quarter or something. That would be a nice little dining club, I think.
Yeah, and that place was a really great example of someone doing high-end stuff really, really well. Obviously, just got a Michelin star, so shout out to those guys. They were really good.
Lovely. Tom, you have
Cool.
a great couple of weeks. Best of luck with the pub. I look forward to coming down in April. And I'll catch you soon.
See you for a delicious pint of Braybrook
Ah,
Keller
yes.
Lager when you're back.
See you later, Tom.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.